Is the Pac-12 situation hopeless? Of course, Lincoln Riley going to USC is huge and brings hope, but it's only one school, and it's not an automatic fix, but it is huge. So what can the Pac-12 do to turn things around?
So coincidentally, Minnesota's 247 and USC's 247 page, both of their their insiders who write for those pages have mentioned rumors of USC talking to the Big Ten. I know nothing's picked up major steam, and they just said it's something they're hearing, which you can hear anything in the modern times. And we've heard the rumors of Oregon and USC leaving the Pac-12 30 different times now, as many times as we heard the US or Texas, Oklahoma to the Pac-12 rumors. Those were spinning for years, but the Pac-12 really just needs to convince these other schools to invest in football. I mean, these schools just have no urgency and no desire to be good at football. You have Oregon and USC who's putting money in it. UCLA was trying to there for a minute. Washington seems like they're trying to be good, but they're not dumping money into, recruiting or into all these other assets that you're going to need if you're out on the West Coast and you're not in a talent bed. Well, they are in a talent bed and they can't keep their talent bed home. So it's just, you need these Pac-12 teams to care more. And there needs to be a financial investment for them to be good. No matter how great of a job Kliavkov has done so far, and I think he's done wonderfully, there's nothing he can do when the school presidents don't care about football.
So when Texas and Oklahoma left for the SEC and that all became known and the parameters around it and so forth, then the ensuing talk for weeks was all sorts of crazy stuff, including what you just mentioned, USC to the Big Ten. But it was USC and somebody else, whether that was UCLA, Oregon, Washington, or just UCLA or just Oregon. Like for the Big Ten to just run across the country, grab USC, you would think that they would want, and you would think USC would want some kind of hold on the West Coast and to anchor them along and not just be some kind of satellite school for the Big Ten to play, that they would want some kind of connection with, whether that, again, be UCLA and Oregon from proximity factors, but also the value of the name brand of the football program. Those would be the likely candidates.
Yeah. And, I think UCLA would be probably the easiest to do because you would need the state government's approval to separate Oregon and Oregon State. But UCLA, for football wise, doesn't bring anything that USC doesn't bring. USC has a fan base. UCLA has almost none. USC is investing into football heavily, has a lot of momentum right now. UCLA has very little, if any. If you could get USC and Oregon, or the four that was mentioned a few different times, USC, Oregon, UCLA, Washington, or even if you have to appease the government, replace Washington with Oregon State, if you really have to, you're going to cripple the Pac-12 because you take UCLA, USC, and Oregon, who are good at track, basketball, football, and a number of other sports. You're going to take them and just cripple the Pac-12. You're going to leave Arizona for basketball. You're going to leave Stanford for Olympic sports. And it would completely demolish the Pac-12. But at that rate, a lot of them would end up going to the Big 12 or the Mountain West or here and here. But yeah, if the Big 10 could pull off landing Oregon, USC, and whatever other two teams they got to land, that would be a huge addition for those teams and the conference, because the Pac-12 hasn't done anything for Oregon or USC in 10 years.
The SEC sitting at 16, the Big Ten's at 14. They could possibly just pick off two, and 16's a workable number in terms of schedules and divisions and all of that. That would be, we talked up Texas, Oklahoma, which I consider to be the biggest expansion move in the history of college football. But my goodness, if the Big Ten went out and grabbed USC and Oregon,
that'd be big too.
Yes.
In terms of, USC has been dormant about as long as Texas, and Oregon's had about as much recent success as Oklahoma, minus, the Sam Darnold years with their championships and stuff. But yeah, two very comparable programs to another two. USC to Texas, Oregon to Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma's got better history before, and Oklahoma fans in your comments caps lock typing. But yeah, it'd be a very comparable ad, and it would be huge. You'd have Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. That's insane.
Penn State, Michigan.
Yeah. Penn
Nothing
State,
wrong with Wisconsin, et cetera,
Michigan,
et cetera.
Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan
great
State.
Conference.
Yeah,
no.
It's a really solid conference, top to bottom.
Then
Minus
you
Rutgers.
wonder. Then you wonder. Big 12. The Big 12 without Texas, Oklahoma, plus the 4 that they added from the American Conference, plus BYU, that has made it a very deep conference. It's a very interesting conference.
It's what the Pac-12's been for the past 4 years.
But in terms of having someone that's capable of playing with Ohio State, Georgia, USC, they're not there. They don't exist.
Yeah.
And then Clemson's sitting on an island and waiting for Florida State and Miami to wake up. Man, it's intriguing, but it would seem as though the SEC and the Big Ten might just crush the sport if the Big Ten would go out and get 2 or 4 schools like that.
Yeah, and I mean, even though people are going to say it's going to be bad for the sport or they're going to crush the sport, at the same time, the Pac-12 has been hurting these football programs more than they've been helping them. Yeah, I know it puts more conferences and it tries to create more parity and separates things. But when the conference is holding back 2 teams who are trying to contend and, they're losing out on not only fiscal resources, they're missing out on the respect of playing a decent schedule half of the time. It's just, there's no benefit right now for those teams in the Pac-12. I do think Kliavkoff can turn it around if given time, but people haven't always been patient in this business.
Connor brings up something that has been roaming around my head since this discussion started. If all you're talking about is football, like watching a football game, do I want to see USC and Michigan play? Absolutely. Do I want to see Oregon, Ohio State, all those schools that we just mentioned? Do I want to see those football? Yeah, that'd be phenomenal. But what does your typical USC fan think of everybody we play is a million miles away out in the Midwest?
Well, they don't show up 10 miles away, so it doesn't make a difference.
That's true. Yeah, I guess they'd be more apt to travel to go see Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan than they would traveling 10 miles to go see Arizona State.
Yeah, USC is UCLA as well. The LA schools in general haven't had attendance anyway. So it's like, oh, yeah, you're not going to get fans there. Well, they don't have fans there now, so okay.
That would be an odd thing.